Welcome to the Recovery Cast, brought to you by Hills and Rangers Private.
Hello again. Welcome back to another episode of the Recovery Cast, proudly brought to you by Hills and Rangers Private. My name is Oliver and I'm a former addict in recovery. Got an interesting episode planned for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about my first experience with the Recovery Dharma program. But first, a little bit of information about this podcast. The Recovery Cast is a podcast created by people in recovery from addiction for people in recovery from addiction. There are many definitions of addiction, but we keep it simple. Addiction to us is when people use alcohol, drugs, or certain behaviours repetitively to their detriment, basically when it's a problem for them and their families. Therefore, an addict is not necessarily a needle-using junkie in a dark laneway, and an alcoholic is not necessarily a homeless man in a park. Recovery for us means using an active daily process or program to deal with alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder, or other behavioural addictions. People in recovery are committed to complete abstinence. This daily process is as important to being able to live normal lives as daily dialysis is for people with kidney problems. This podcast is meant as a support tool for those in recovery. I myself am a recovering drug addict, however, each day we are going to focus on a different perspective of recovery. Everyone who participates in the podcast is in an active recovery program. We are not affiliated with any one recovery methodology and will focus on a variety of different types of recovery, including 12-step recovery programs such as Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous, Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, Recovery Dharma, Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, and more. And a quick disclaimer, this podcast is intended to be informative. A podcast alone cannot support your sobriety and recovery, so we suggest it only as one component of a daily recovery routine. If you'd like to know some more information on what recovery is, please go to www.rehab.melbourne. Now, we're going to read from the Narcotics Anonymous Just for Today booklet, and today's reading is from November the 5th, and it's entitled God's Guidance. Our higher power is accessible to us at all times. We receive guidance when we ask for knowledge of God's will for us. Basic text, page 95. It's not always easy to make the right decision. This is especially true for addicts learning to live by the spiritual principles for the first time. In addiction, we developed self-destructive, antisocial impulses. When conflict arose, we took our cues from those negative impulses. Our disease didn't prepare us to make sound decisions. Today, we find the direction we need. We ask our higher power. We stop, we pray, and quietly we listen within for guidance. We've come to believe that we can rely on a power greater than ourselves. That power is accessible to us whenever we need it. All we need to do is pray for knowledge of our God's will for us and the power to carry it out. Each time we do this, each time we find direction amidst our confusion, our faith grows. The more we rely on our higher power, the easier it becomes to ask for direction. We found the power we were lacking in our addiction, a power that is available to us at all times. To find the direction we need to live fully and grow spiritually, all we have to do is maintain contact with the God of our understanding. Just for today, my higher power is a source of spiritual guidance within me that I can always draw upon. When I lack direction today, I will ask for knowledge of my higher power's will. So, yes, another higher power one. That's just so, that's the thing, I guess. I'm looking through this Just for Today book, and I think every second page is one about, higher power or about God, whatever you want to call it. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, this is difficult for people who are new to recovery and new to these 12-step fellowships such as Narcotics Anonymous, you see that word on the wall, you see God and you hear about people talking about God and you think to yourself, oh, I don't know, I sort of thought, is it a religious cult? I wasn't sure what was going on. And look, the reality of it is it's not. It's a spiritual program, not religious, and they stipulate that. It's a simple spiritual, not religious program. And it's just a matter of having something that's not you that is running the show. That's what it's about for me. Is Oliver was controlling his own life for 26 years, and he got himself to the point where he was at a complete rock bottom, suffering from addiction. I can tell you, I mean, it was just a combination of events and things that led me to where I am today, and I don't really put that down to me doing things. I think that was something that was like, I was brought to the realization that I needed to accept help and go into treatment, and I like to believe that maybe there was some sort of helping sort of spirit or higher power that was guiding me to do that. As strange as that sounds, it's something that I really struggled with growing up, the higher power thing or the God thing. But when I came into Narcotics Anonymous, I was that broken that I was willing to sort of think, well, I'm going to give this a try. And, it works for me. So what the reading is about is literally just about the fact that my higher power is a source of spiritual guidance that I can draw upon. When I lack direction, I will ask for knowledge of my higher power's will. So often if I'm running on my own will, which is something that is spoken about a lot in NA meetings, running on self-will, it's me trying to control things. It's me thinking that I can call the shots in my life and that things need to go the way I want to. And I get that's really harmful for me, because when I try and control things and they don't go the way I want or the way I intend, I struggle and I suffer. And I've talked about this to you guys before, that it comes from, for me, a place of fear of rejection and fear of failure, that when things don't go the way I want, I fall apart. And it just manifests in a way of like me getting angry or me feeling uncomfortable and snapping at my girlfriend and or at anyone around me. And I have to learn to grow from that. That's what being in recovery is about for me, is about accepting that things won't always happen the way I plan, and that perhaps there's something that's controlling it, that's guiding me. And since I've been doing this, everything is easy. Everything's much easier. I'm not thinking that if something doesn't work, it's my fault, or if something does work, it's my fault. It's just the way of the world. And, if I think about it that way, I just think, well, maybe there's a higher power that's controlling it, and I'll leave it up to them to decide what happens. And so far, everything has worked when I do that. The house, the job, the cars, relationships, family, everything's easier. How amazing. Now, I want to talk about what I intended to talk about at the beginning of this episode was Recovery Dharma. So we had my friend and recovery peer Amanda on the show a few days ago now, and she is a member of the Recovery Dharma program. So basically, at Hills and Ranges Private, it's not just a sort of a detox, shall we say, where they take you to NA meetings or AA meetings. They do a huge sort of array of proven and tested methods to help you stay in recovery when you leave. They give you these habits of trying all these different things. And for me, I'm an NA guy. I've said this before, and I'm expanding my horizons too, so I can sort of understand what is on offer at Hills and Ranges Private. And part of that was trying some different programs and recovery methods. So last night I actually went to a Recovery Dharma program meeting, which of course was on Zoom. And so I logged in to this meeting, and I think there was about 15 people in there, some of whom I actually knew from other fellowships and being in recovery for over 4 years, which is amazing that it's a small world, and when you get into recovery, at least in my experience, is you start making friends and just knowing people and saying, hey, you know, from just the sort of treatment community of people who are healthcare professionals involved in drug and alcohol treatment, and also just members of the fellowship. It's a tight-knit community, and I wasn't really surprised to actually see people from different fellowships here, quite a few of them, some of whom had heaps of time in recovery up, which was great. So I already felt sort of like I was welcomed because I knew people there, and that's not necessarily the most important thing, but it definitely was. It was nice to know. We're going to talk about what actually went on in the Recovery Dharma meeting after the break.
You're listening to the Recovery Cast by Hills and Rangers Private. Now playing daily on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. For more shows, visit us at www.rehab.melbourne.
That's right. So you're listening to the Recovery Cast with Oliver, and I was just talking to you guys about what happened in the Recovery Dharma meeting that I went to yesterday. So I went in, and there's a lot of sort of information shared about what the Recovery Dharma program is. They talk about how it all works, and then we did a meditation for about 5 or 10 minutes of just meditating on the breath. And I have talked about meditation before. It's amazing that was used in a meeting. I've never really experienced that before. So I guess before I talk about what actually happened in the meeting, I'm going to talk about what is Recovery Dharma, and I'm getting this from their website, recoverydharma.org. Recovery Dharma is a peer-led movement and community that is unified by our trust in the potential of each of us to recover and find freedom from the suffering of addiction. God, that's succinct, isn't it? That's it. We believe that recovery means empowerment, and we support each other as partners walking the path of recovery together. Our program uses the Buddhist practices of meditation, self-inquiry, wisdom, compassion, and community as tools for recovery and healing. We believe that recovery is about finding our own inner wisdom and our own path. We believe that the traditional Buddhist teachings, often referred to as the Dharma, offer a powerful approach to healing from addiction and living a life of true freedom. Our program is based on the idea that every one of us is our own guide in recovery from addiction. With the help and understanding of our wise friends and Sangha community, we believe that's what the Dharma teaches us. So it is with great joy and excitement that we come together to build this recovery community and support structure informed by the spirit of democracy. Recovery Dharma welcomes anyone who is looking to heal from addiction and addictive behaviour, whether it's caused by substance use or process addictions like codependency, gambling, eating disorders, relationships, technology, or any obsessive habitual pattern that creates suffering. We found that this Buddhist-inspired path can lead to liberation from the suffering of addiction, and we support you in finding your own path to recovery. And so do I. I support you in finding your own path to recovery. How strange. I mean, I just found it really different to what I was used to in terms of sort of a recovery program or a method. And when I went into this Zoom meeting, you wouldn't believe who I saw there. I saw that the guests at Hills and Rangers Private were all sitting down in front of their cameras, and they were enjoying the meeting as well, it's great. And so you can see that sort of, there's so many things on offer to the guests at Hills and Rangers Private, and that's just one of them is the Recovery Dharma program. So it talked about, we did meditation, and it was a conventional sort of sharing based meeting where everyone's encouraged to share, and the person who was the sort of secretary or facilitator was another member who was choosing people to share, and they were talking about what was going on for them, how their recovery is going, and also sort of how they operate within that recovery Dharma structure of those spiritual principles, which are actually similar to some other programs of recovery where we talk about it was meditation, self-inquiry, wisdom, compassion, and community as tools for recovery and healing. So they're talking about how they actually go about those things, talking about meditation, how they do it, self-inquiry, they're looking at, just talking about, I did this the other day and I had to look at why I did that and how that affects my recovery, and maybe I can do something differently next time. Wisdom, compassion, helping others, and community. So that's sort of, it's all those things, those spiritual principles that many people in recovery, I think, are brought into doing, especially, for me and for a lot of people that I know that work a strong recovery program, they're involved with those things. In the one that I do the most, Narcotics Anonymous, it's encouraged that we do all those things. So there are certain steps as part of the 12 steps where there's a lot of self-inquiry, where we look at what we've done in the past and sort of make amends or atone for the things that we've done, whether it's by going and admitting that we were wrong to people, or just never doing that thing again, and perhaps trying to make an ongoing amends by donating for charity. In the case of, for me, like I stole from a workplace and I always make an amends by giving back financially. So when I go to Lentil as Anything to the restaurant, I always give them $20 regardless of whatever I eat, because for so many years I used to go there and never pay. That's an example of that sort of self-inquiry of thinking, okay, well, I'm actually a bit selfish, so I'm going to try and make up for that now. And that seems like something that people do. It's a very Buddhist principle that there's self-inquiry and compassion for other people, for all living beings even. And that finding our own inner wisdom and our own path is beautiful, because through things such as meditation, it's possible to find our own inner wisdom, and we realize that some of our suffering is actually needless, even though as part of the Recovery Dharma, there were 4 principles. I need to actually look up what these 4, can't remember what they were called even, but I'm going to check that out now. And one of them, the first one I think that was said was that life, there's suffering, so life has suffering in it, and I'm going to just check this now. The 4 noble truths, that's it. So that comprise the essence of Buddha's teachings: the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. How interesting. So, it was talking about the truth of suffering. So, for me, I was living my life that was suffering. It was my life, and my addiction was so much suffering. The truth of the end of suffering, and how that I can learn to not suffer, perhaps. And I do that through meditation and through practicing those Buddhist principles. And I was actually doing this before I went to a Recovery Dharma meeting, because I had experimented with Buddhism at times in my life as someone who was sort of perhaps not interested in the sort of Christianity side of religion. I have a friend that is a Buddhist and lives in a Buddhist centre in Brighton East called the Tara Institute. And as part of my recovery, and before that actually, when I was trying to sort of deal with the way I felt when I was in active addiction, I used to go there and do meditations and learn about Buddhist principles and teachings from the lamas that lived there as well at the Buddhist Centre. So it wasn't exactly something that was foreign to me, but it really, I think it's something that we can get a lot out of in terms of applying it to our recovery, especially the meditation thing and those spiritual principles. I encourage, if you've never done something like that before, and you want to give it a go, then please give it a go. There are Recovery Dharma meetings online and in person, hopefully when the COVID situation is a little bit more under control and we can start meeting indoors in sort of reasonable numbers, that you should go and attend one. Or if you can't until then, jump on Zoom and go to a Recovery Dharma meeting. It's well worth checking out a number of different things for your recovery. I think I've learned this over the last days of trying different programs, that the more you do, the better you feel. The better you feel, the less likely you are to relapse or suffer in general, I think. So, yeah, I hope that was informative for you. I encourage you to give it a shot. I got a lot out of it, and I'm going to check in with you next week when I go to another Recovery Dharma meeting, and we'll talk about it and see what happened and how it's going with those practices that I mentioned today. So in the meantime, I hope you have a beautiful day in this springtime in Melbourne, and we will see you another time on the Recovery Cast. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Recovery Cast. For more, visit us at www.rehab.melbourne.